So we are here with our first podcast episode with a guest. Hello to Sara Ashley. Thank you
Hey,
for joining
guys.
us.
Thanks for having me. I'm so honored to be the first one. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. We're really excited to talk to you about all these different things that we connect on because you come up in our conversations very often,
Love it.
just very naturally.
Yeah.
That comes into the flow of things. And yeah, we're just really excited to learn about you and your history and
Mhm.
um, what got you to this moment and kind of what you see for moving forward as well. I think that people would really like to hear your perspective on what is going to form in the world and kind of how you see that happening through your personal perspective. So,
Cool.
yeah. Is there anywhere that you would like to start?
Yeah, I definitely want to say that I don't know much about astrology. And like the stuff that I do is usually just channeling and reading Akashic records. And then I started watching your stuff. And it's always like exactly what I'm receiving, but through a whole different lens, basically. So
Yeah.
it's always like two puzzle pieces coming together. And that's why then I'll tell him, oh, I watched her latest video and it's exactly what we've been talking about. And
And
yeah, we are excited.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's great. Well, astrology is it's just a different language, right? And it's coming from the same source, like Archangel, Metatron, sacred geometry. It's all coming from the same source that so many of us are receiving right now. It's just coming in through different spaces. So from the Akashic, from astrology, some people do it like through the tarot or the oracle or just like straight up channeling. It's all coming through the same space. But like, I think for me, astrology is just always his work because I'm a very skeptical person, believe it or not. Like, I'm like, show me the evidence, show me the proof. So whenever I get a hunch on something, whenever I get a download, I'm like, okay, let me go to the astrology. Let me see why this is. It's almost like working backwards. Like, why is this happening? I need to know. Let me see how I can figure this out astrologically. That's how
Mm.
I do it. Yeah.
I think it's funny because a lot of people who aren't into astrology, like I hear people still say it's like, I don't believe in astrology. And I'm
Mm.
like, that's like saying you don't believe in consciousness, essentially. But I understand where some of these people are coming from because of the way that it's been presented for
Right.
us so far. And so the fact that you find evidence in astrology is the foundation of scientific discovery essentially. And that's why I felt so connected to the way that you transmit your messages because I can feel the science behind it, and that's what's always been my curiosity within all of the astrology stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. I mean, in all the ancient mystery schools, you couldn't go into the ancient mystery schools unless you were a believer in astrology or even had a foundation in astrology. Even like the first medical schools that were in ancient Greece, you had to like use astrology essentially into diagnosing someone. So it's incredibly scientific. And when people are like, oh no, it's just like garbage, it's no, I mean, people have been using it since for thousands and thousands of years is evidential, not just for, okay, is this person a good love match, which the Indian people still use that in Vedic astrology. But it is also for, global transits, global predictive transits, medical astrology. You can use it for basically to tie in anything, almost anything, especially soul contracts, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like in the Essene community, I've seen, but this is also just me looking into the Akashic records, and I'm sure that you may have your own insights into that. I've seen how they would, when babies were born, they would look at the astrology of the child to see, okay, what is this person like what is a good way to support this child into developing their personality and what kind of job this child may be good at later, their gifts in life and stuff, so that they were using it to really raise children and to kind of fine tune how they were going to raise these children.
Yeah, definitely. And I've seen that as well, Deborah. And Dolores Cannon published this book, I think 30 or so years ago, called Jesus and the Essenes. I'm
Mm.
sure you've read it. Yeah. And she talks about that. Well, the person that was under the hypnosis talks about that, how people were matched to certain occupations, partnerships, and things of that nature based on their chart. So definitely it's something that has been masked over by the current church so that people don't feel empowered,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I love the idea of using it in an organic way for matching with marriages and with partnerships and with relationships. It's just been so distorted and inverted to be used as the fear system. The forced marriage now is what it became, you know. And so if it's used from a place of just understanding and there's still free will
Yes.
involved in the concept and in the exchange, then I think that's a great way of actually understanding the way that people can come together and that they kind of merge their experience together.
Yeah, 100%. Because if one person is not willing to show up in a high vibrational way, right? Because that's the thing. When I read someone's chart, I'm like, okay, these are possibilities of what could happen. But if you don't use this energy for your highest good and highest path, you can use it in a destructive path. And that's the thing about, sacred union, ascension partners. If your ascension partner does not want to ascend with you, then I am sure the universe will provide another ascension partner for you. It does not have to be that person. And if we are very stuck, this is where like that twin flame concept just drives me up the wall. If we're stuck
Yeah.
on making that person, yeah, I know you guys are right there with me. We're stuck on making that person like realize their potential, and we're gonna do this whole runner chaser bullshit concept. You're not gonna let them close their own karmic loop, and then you're gonna be stuck and you're gonna take on all their karma because you're so busy focusing on them instead of your own life path, which I guarantee is not to focus on them and try to absolve them of all their karma. I know you guys talk about that stuff a lot on your channel.
Yeah, it's just all very interesting because it is a science. Like, I don't understand it, but when I watch your videos, I'm like, oh, this is a science. She's just turning it into words that I understand.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And
Right. It's exactly what it is.
that's how it's happened with me too, because with the galactic side, it like takes me into the different star systems and the different dimensions and timelines. And so it's like that's where I started finding my evidence. The scientific evidence that I found through the galactic zodiac, which was like recognizing where I had these injuries throughout my life in different parts of my body, and then seeing where these stargates exist in the body, and then seeing that the injuries happened around these stargates, which have to do with karma that I experienced in these other timelines. And so it was like showing me that my body was the zodiac system itself. And so that's where
Yeah.
I got the evidence where okay, now I know how to bring this in to do the same things that you're doing. It's just working in kind of like a different angle.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all coming from the same source. So like when people are like, well, what about this form of astrology? What about that form of astrology? It doesn't matter because it's all the same code. It's all the same divine source codes. And it's going to lead you to the same place.
Oh, so astrology. Yeah, you were just describing how it's all coming from the same source. It's all coming from the same code, and people use these astrology practices in kind of different and unique ways. But it's important to recognize that it's all the same thing. It's just different perspectives.
Right, right, exactly. When people like argue, like, oh, you use Placidus or you use whole sign or you use Vedic or whatever this Ophiuchus or whatever it is, it's like, and then they start getting all self-righteous about it. It's like, why are you getting self-righteous about it? It's just
Mhm.
information coming from the divine, coming from, our star systems. So why are you getting haughty about it? Because you
Mhm.
should be privileged enough that you are actually receiving these messages. So I feel like that's when, we call like exactly what you guys call it, like service to self factions start developing, or people start becoming very service to self because they're getting in their ego about what they're receiving instead of understanding it is for the collective. They are a messenger for the collective. They are receiving this information for a reason. So it doesn't matter what kind of system you are using, as long as you are receiving clear channeled messages that are for people's highest good.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I'm starting to see that these different astrology systems are like all pieces, like you're saying, to the same puzzle. It's like I'm starting to see how they kind of fit together in different ways. And it's just that souls have come in to work with different aspects of the system in different ways, and that none of them is right or wrong, but that inverted aspect of like people making their personality identity and inflated ego identities around their zodiac signs and around the horoscopes, and kind of like it becoming this like circus tent dollar store psychic type experience, you know?
Exactly. It's very much tied back to like this snake oil salesman archetype,
Yeah.
spiritual
Yeah.
archetype, like that happened last time Neptune was in Aries in the 1860s through like 18, I think it's like late 1870s. And it's very much tied back to the archetype. And now we're seeing it over again. These people, they're like, I'm a this, I'm a that, I know more. I'm gonna make fun of that. So it's like, okay, like sometimes it's fun to, razz people and just, but over their chart, but only in jest,
Hmm.
like taking it seriously and really like blowing up over it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you made a video on that, I think also like a week ago, about people getting so angry in their ego, psychics or astrologers, healers. And I know we're getting kind of off topic, but I was just thinking while you were talking, often that's a trigger reaction that people have, I think, because they're not really secure in what they're receiving, so they feel insecure about, oh, you are challenging my point of view, this is making me feel uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And then they
Yeah,
get angry when they should be just a channel and trust that God, source, whatever you want to call it, is working through you.
Hmm.
exactly. Exactly. And that's when we're not fully trusting the messages that we're receiving because of all of the, I'll call it societal gobbledygook, right? Like in
Hmm.
projections that we've had really, for I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of years now, where all of this, higher, well, actually, it's probably thousands of years since, I'm just going to say, like, no offense to Catholic people out there, the Pope just passed away, but really like trying to control spiritual information. So
Hmm.
that's just like that gobbledygook within us, the shadow within us that is like, oh, I'm trying to reconcile. Am I really giving the right information or not? And then when you feel, like you said, Deborah, when people feel challenged about it, they're going to act out because they must be right, or else everything that they've been doing is a sin or wrong or whatever it is.
Hmm. The Luciferic inflation.
And it reminded me of something else I think that you also mentioned about this, basically how Christians will say, oh, you cannot do astrology because then you are doing demonic stuff. When we look at the Essenes, the first Christians before Christianity, of course, was a term, they were using astrology.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes, definitely. But of course, that information had to be controlled.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
They thought that, well, we can't, the Constantinian version of Christianity, then we can't control the masses. We,
Hmm.
and we need to control the masses or we're going to lose our place. And we're seeing that right now unfold in
Hmm.
real time.
Yeah, and we've been talking about the like the false calendar, because we were talking about Easter and holidays and like the Gregorian calendar and like how the dating system, it's all weird the way they implemented it. And so like they used that to like skew the astrology almost as well. And it's like if people aren't aware of these excess things that are happening, then they're gonna receive more distorted messages almost, because they're like operating off of this false ascension matrix and calendar, to whereas you're aware of these things, and so you're able to use the astrology from a place of clarity that isn't in you're not receiving all of that distortion because you've done the awareness work to pull yourself out of that shadow.
Right, exactly. So, like, for example, January 1st is not the real new year.
Yeah.
It's like you're in the dead of winter, like the dead mass of winter, where everybody's just historically, especially in the northern hemisphere. What did we do? We like stored up meat. Like my grandfather described this so well about his upbringing. He said like we had like meat hanging from the walls and the ceilings. And then we had like jam and we had like these heavy woolen blankets, and we were just basically like sitting in the dark for like 3 months. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a great time to manifest and
Yeah.
new things, right? And
Yeah.
it's just so distorted. It goes against the grain of nature. And it does lead to, once again, like this second guessing of yourself and this insecurity and looking to other things outside of you and outside of your inner knowing to control you and manipulate you and essentially like dog walk you into something that you really don't want to do inherently, but you feel obligated to do.
Yeah.
It's hibernation season, winter. And I think wasn't like the actual new year is actually the beginning of spring. What we now see as the beginning of spring is the true new year, basically.
And isn't it like Vedic astrology even considers, I think, like March 29th or something, the astrological new year, I think, in Vedic? Something like that.
So, or it might have just happened. I have a friend who I forgot exactly what religion it is, but it's like an Indian Cambodian religion, and their new year is the full moon in Libra that we just had.
Hmm.
So, and that's considered to be like Holy Week for Christians,
Mhm.
Jews. So there's something around that time of year that does bring in, new beginnings. And you can even
Mhm.
outside here in the northern hemisphere, like all of a sudden all these trees bloomed overnight.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because in the galactic zodiac seasons, we just started Aries on April 19th. So
Right.
like all these different pieces show us these like large periods of and windows of these kind of seasonal changes where we can see all of these different like bookmarks and kind of how to work with it. It's just so interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's definitely showing us that we once again need to trust our inner knowing, which is being shown to us in nature. There's
Hmm.
no second guessing about it. So if I were to give anybody any advice that listens to this today, like God speaks in simple ways. It's not that complicated. So, like when you see something or you hear something, you don't have to try to analyze it that deeply. It's like if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, it is a duck, that kind of thing. So, knowing that we have this beautiful, world of nature just to show us like the life cycles and the energy that we are currently working with. It's just that simple. It's not like this whole complex thing.
Hmm.
What goes behind the scenes is very complex, but to us humans, it's a very simple message to receive.
Hmm.
It just makes sense that nature and like what we see around us on the planet is also in a way a reflection of what's going on in the stars, like the
Yeah.
cyclical nature of things. And then we try to overcomplicate it and introduce these artificial systems like a new calendar, and then we have to add a day every 4 years to make it make sense. It's just so weird.
Yeah, it's just like space is nature. Nature, it's like we have wind, we have elements, we have things that happen on this planet. And so the same thing is happening in the stars. And it's just the weather systems. It's literally the precession of the equinoxes and it just expands all the way up. And it's like that circular motion is basically the core of our entire experience. And that's what creates our seasons. And so it's really when I see astrology, it's just about being in tune with the weather. And it's like that includes the cosmic weather. That's essentially what it is.
Yeah, it's funny because I mean, what do they call the weatherman? A meteorologist.
Yeah.
Study of the stars, the meteors, right?
Yeah.
So that it's interesting.
I've never thought about that before.
Me neither until now. So it's
Yeah.
that's kind of what I feel like I do. People have told me that they're like, you're like the cosmic weather report.
Hmm.
And I see that there's this kid, I forgot what his name is, but he's become quite big on all the social media platforms. And he says, you're astrology weatherman. I'm like, yeah, that's what we
Hmm.
do.
Yeah.
We give
Definitely.
people the weather forecast, what to predict for that day.
Yeah. And I started noticing how when I was aligning more, then I would just inevitably see that what I was getting messages around for the astrology updates was what I was like already experiencing. So it was just the evidence every time of like, oh, wow, I'm seeing that I'm already experiencing these things. And so that's where I kind of push some people away because of the way that they were talking and spreading their messages, because I could see that they were planting kind of distortions and ideas within these spaces that weren't actually aligned with the way that I was feeling. So I noticed more clarity within the just some of the messages from the people that I was receiving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Oops. Oh, okay. Yeah, I agree with all of that because I started noticing more what was happening emotionally inside of me and the messages that I was receiving through channeling. And then I started listening to certain astrologers, and some of them would say things that just didn't really resonate. And then there were those that were just spot on with what I was experiencing. But it's almost like then the ones that were bringing these messages that I was not resonating with, they were trying to create some sort of a box and put you in this box. And then it just felt like you're limiting my experience. And if it's not exactly like what you're saying, then it's not really. I just
Mhm.
that's so I've been going through the same thing
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah. It's almost like they're programming that this
Hmm.
has to happen for you
Exactly.
instead of having free will. And the thing is, when we give a collective reading, it is just like what's going on in general in the collective. Now,
Mhm.
some people are going to experience it that very differently because, of their chart. So I did make a post the other day about how some people with what we would call a challenging chart or a tough chart, with born with tougher aspects like squares to Pluto, squares to Mars, Sun squaring Pluto, Sun squaring Mars, opposing Mars, um, things of that nature. And then when, a week like this comes around where we have the fixed square and cross, they're like, I'm fine. Like, everything's great with me. And then everybody else is, or a lot of other people are having a difficult time. So it can almost bring down your mood if you are just like listening to some people who are trying to force their messages on you
Mhm.
without getting any kind of advice. Because,
Mhm.
like I said, it is about the collective and it's about what's going on in the general mindset of the collective and the general energy. But how we choose to handle that, um, means that we can almost like usurp the timeline of those energies because the timeline of those energies is not fixed. That's the thing. Like, I've heard you talk about this, Ren, like about the Trump date thing. And I know, like you said, the timelines have changed with that. And I completely agree because a lot of us were seeing it, a certain type of way and it's changing for whatever reason. And that's okay. So if it's like, okay, this week I see, we all see as astrologers and psychics and intuitives, like, there could be a lot of world destruction. Well, all of us as a collective could just say, no, we're not going to accept that. And
Mhm.
by our own energies and, our own manifestations, we're going to divert that timeline.
Mhm. Exactly. Exactly. So, when did you first start connecting with astrology, and how did that help you through the awakening process, I guess?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, believe it or not, I was I was kind of a weird kid. I think we're all weird kids that were into this stuff, right? And my mom got me this book about my birthday, January 17th, and I was only 7 years old. And it was like, these people were born on your birthday and these special events. And then it also started talking about Capricorn. I was like, oh, that's interesting because that kind of sounds like me. Hmm. So that started planting the seed in my mind. And then, like, when we would go to Barnes and Noble or what it was called, Borders books back then, or Walden books or whatever bookstore, I'd sneak off to the occult section. And and I never like bought one because I was too afraid to ask, but I would like look into the books And then around, I think it was like 15 or 16, um, I'm sure we all remember CD-ROMs, and there was a CD-ROM at the bargain table at Best Buy for like $10 about astrology. I said, okay, I'm buying this for myself. And that's how I started to learn how to read charts and things of that nature and compatibility charts. It was really cool. I mean, like I wish I was still had that and I could, like copy it somehow and upload it because it was an amazing program to learn from. But I didn't quite understand the soul contract piece of astrology at all. Of course, like I was only 15 or 16, like that's a little above my maturity level at that point. I put it away for a little bit. I'm trying to make this story as short as possible, but you know, when I met my husband, he was kind of like he had one foot in a Christian fundamentalist church and one foot out the door. And the one foot in was like based on guilt, shame, and the fear of going to the lake of fire and burning in it forever. So when we moved in together and I had all these like Capricorn magnets and Capricorn posters, he's like, no, that's too much. It's a bridge too far for me. I'm like, okay. So I put it aside for a while. Well, fast forward, I would say like 2017, I went through my dark night of the soul, like real bad, real bad. I was ready to just like literally walk into traffic. I was going through a really difficult time. At that time, Pluto was opposing my moon. So I felt like shit, to keep it simple. And I just felt very, very lonely. We were living in a foreign country, and it was just it was very tough on me the first 6 months of living there, feeling very isolated. I feel like I was still probably going through like postpartum depression, and it was left untreated. So once I started going to therapy with this amazing British woman, cognitive behavioral therapy, I started perking up again. And then I thought, you know what, like I'm just gonna get back into my spirituality and look at things and all that. And around that time, I received visitation, like psychic visitation from what I'll call like a male tree spirit is the best way I can put it. And I felt like he was guiding me to understand soul contracts, why people have karma with each other, why people are repeating karmic cycles, why certain people don't get along, why in all of the history of why that they don't get along, or why people feel so magnetized towards each other. And slowly but surely, the connection of how people are really intimately connected through this spirit world started really coming into my awareness. And then we know the pandemic happened, and I did not want to get the jibber jabber because I felt like it was not within my soul contract to get that. And I really started to connect in with more of, like other astrologers, listening to their take on it. And I started, forecasting on my own, looking at, the transits, seeing why things were so potent at that time. And around that time, one of my best friends, she was getting married. And what I did for her is I did a synastry chart for her and her husband. And she suggested to me, she said, well, you can like, do like a little side hustle, because, everybody was like locked in and I couldn't go to work. I was teaching special ed at that time. And I said, okay, fine. Like I hate social media. I'm going to be honest with everybody on here. I love it because I get to meet people like you guys and amazing clients, and that's great. But like, I hate the show of it all, the showmanship of it all. I'm like, okay, sure, I'll do it. So slowly but surely, my page grew, and it did lead me into some sticky karmic contracts. I had to meet that, and that also heightened my awareness and helped me go through a lot of transformation and spiritual growth and maturity. Um, Helped me really resonate authentically after, hiding for myself from a very long time. So it's been a lot of study. I've been, I read a lot of books in my life, listened to a lot of different podcasts, all those things. But I would say the main part of this is that guide, the tree guide, and understanding like that I'm connected to this group of tree people in my Akashic that has really helped me understand my soul purpose and how to connect the stars to the collective and help people understand why they're here, um, and how to make the most of it in this incarnation.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
Anything come up for you?
It's always interesting to hear other people's stories because 2017, when I was going through, yeah, it was like a very dark night of the soul as well. So we were kind of going through it at the same time, and I'm sure that there was some kind of collective astrological event that was triggering that for an entire group of people at the time. And then in 2020, with COVID happening, then these people, it seems like, that were awakened in 2017, they like had to up level a little bit and start offering talking about all this stuff and sharing with others.
Mm-hmm. I just remembered as you were saying that that astrology was one of the things that opened my mind to what was happening with COVID, because I found all of these astrology reports when COVID was like when lockdown was starting. So it had already been going for a while. And these
Yeah.
astrology reports were from the previous year, like a few months before November. And it was talking about the Pluto transit and how it hadn't happened in a long time, and they were saying that it's going to create global unrest, possible disease and sickness, and a lot of death and like secrets coming to the surface. And I read that when it started happening, and that's when I was just like, oh my
It's
God.
all coming together.
Yeah, it all made sense. I completely forgot about that. So that's why I think I know that Pluto stands for secrets being uh up all the upheaval, because that's one of the
Yes.
original things I learned.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting just to see. I just had to think of my grandma. This is completely unrelated, but she's like the typical um mainstream person that like reads the weekly horoscope in the
Yeah.
like her little magazine that she gets every week, and she's like, oh, Pisces, this is what it's saying for this week. Libra, this is what it. But then with COVID, she was also reading her magazines. It's like, oh yeah, that they were saying this stuff, they were saying all this. So it's funny how the system of astrology, watered down kind of as it was still reaching all these people that when you look at just psychic messages, a lot of people will dismiss that, but astrology or
Mhm.
horoscopes, more people accept it.
Yeah.
Like different types of people will accept it. And during COVID, a lot of people were following these
Mhm.
updates, like my grandma.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they're searching for answers. They were like, well, what is this? There has to be some cosmic reason as to why we're living through this unprecedented time.
Mhm.
And I think that's why, like, all of us who, like you said, were awakened in 2017, we did that like massive ascension lift. We're like, okay, now we need to know. We need to know what this is so that we can help guide the collective, and so we can be prepared as well. Because a lot of people were like completely hysterical since then. And I've noticed those same people who were like super hysterical still haven't calmed down. They're like for the next epic tragedy to happen. It's like, why do you guys want something else to happen? It's like, can we just be at peace? What is
Mhm.
that? I mean, I don't know if you guys are seeing that, but that frustrates me more than anything.
Definitely. I definitely feel that. I've found myself getting into that mindset before of like
Mm.
being too much on the lookout for like the negative, the next thing that's gonna blow. Like I've had to really pull myself back from constantly trying to peer and think about their next move and the negative implications and when this is going to happen versus when this is going to happen. I was very sucked into that for a long time.
Same. And that was like the Q thing.
Yeah.
I know that you talked about that, Ryan, like
Yeah.
the Q thing. And then we're like, oh, maybe it is right. But then all
Hmm.
of a sudden you wake up one day, you're like, oh, maybe it's a program. Oh,
Hmm.
hmm.
I was deep in it. I was like, because I started finding out about like this light versus dark intergalactic war from David Wilcock, and it was right around the George Floyd riots. And so that's when I had this like huge catapult, and when I ended up finding those astrology posts and stuff. So there was a lot happening at that point.
Yeah,
But I just lost my train of thought. What was I
it's
talking
okay.
about again?
The over analyzing of like, oh,
Oh
the
yeah.
next negative thing.
Yeah, and so I got pulled then into the rabbit holes of the human trafficking, all of the dark stuff, and it was just like shock after shock after shock on my body. Like I had many sleepless nights, I had panic attacks and paranoia, and so then I had all these friends who were like, QAnon, do you know what Q is? Like it's all these, and so that's when I started getting pulled into that space of like John F. Kennedy Jr. alive and like all of those crazy conspiracies. So like really the conspiracy theory world is very interesting to be in, and then to come out and see what is true, but then still see all of these other things that are just being thrown out that people just want to believe basically.
Right. Right. Because it's like hopium, like
Uh-huh.
they really want to. I have a quick funny story about that. So it was like a little over, yeah, it was like 2.5 years ago. Um, I won't say who it was, but I was on a website with somebody who was speaking at a truther conference. Okay. And I was filming a reality show that never happened. Thank God. Um, about like psychics and astrologers and things of that nature. So I was in the area and he was like, would you and this other person who are working with me on this website, would you like to come out to this truther conference? And I was like, why not? Like, I'm not doing anything else today. This is our day off of work. So I came in and there was this guy, I don't know if I want to say his name, but he's a very large man who hosts podcasts. And I'll just say JOS. And so this woman comes up to me and she's like, "You look like Caroline. Are you Caroline?" I was like, and I looked at her like that, like, who's that? She's like, Caroline Kennedy. She's still alive. Maybe you're her. Are you with JOS? And I said, no. And she's like, I want to show you. He is JFK Jr. See, he's still here. And that's why I thought you might have been with him, that that both of you survived the crash. And I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? What did I get myself into being here? Like that is like off the wall because first of all, Caroline was like 20 years older than me or something like that. So I mean, it's some great Botox and great plastic surgery work she must have
Mhm.
received in
Yeah.
her day. Yeah, I'm just masquerading as her. It's
It's
weird.
funny that someone would walk up and ask directly.
I think
Yeah.
some people get really sucked into this echo chamber too of constantly talking about these things, and they're not very grounded in the actual earth world, and they don't really, they're in their little bubble. And then it's easy to kind of really get too carried away in all the stuff. And that's quite something for me to say because we're like very carried away in all the stuff, but we're at the same time constantly double checking with each other, with ourselves, staying grounded, like so that we are not flying off basically into space
Mhm.
constantly.
It's
Right.
it's definitely a practice.
Mhm.
I get it. I know. I feel you on that one. You're like, is this
Yeah.
real? Or am I just, is it distortion? Or am I just
Yeah.
making it something that I
Yeah.
want?
Mhm.
And that's smart that you guys lean on each other for that. I know I do that
Yeah.
with my husband too. I'm like, Delulu. He's like, nah, that's what happened. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Any questions?
No,
We
it's
got
just
we got some written down.
just a very nice conversation.
Hmm.
But yeah, definitely. What do I want to? Yeah, so we know now how you kind of rolled into astrology. So I feel you have a very unique way of presenting it. Like, has it always kind of come natural, or is it something that you, for yourself, kind of started fine-tuning and how am I going to bring this to people? And did it change over time how you would bring people this information?
Sure. So like I said, I work with special needs kids, so I always had to kind of take big concepts and put them into very small and understandable chunks.
Mm-hmm.
So from that training, that really helped me take these really big esoteric concepts and relate them to the collective in these small, relatable chunks of information. When I first started doing readings, I was kind of like camera shy. So, and once again, I was like, I don't want to get into that social media stuff. So I would do like everything handwritten, not handwritten, sorry, like I would type it all out.
Mhm.
But then, I wanted to create that connection with people who are watching, and then I started doing more video readings. So like everything now is video readings. I don't think I've done a written reading in like years, unless it's just like over direct messages and I just have something to say to somebody that comes through. Um, but yeah, I think that the more that I've done it, the more that the downloads come more easily. And just like any other language that you speak, whatever language that is, because astrology is essentially a language, you become more fluent in it and it becomes easier and it flows more.
That's basically been my process because in 2017, I had this whole awakening. I'm like, okay, I have to start doing this for other people. I started practicing with friends. And in the beginning, I would type all this information, but it kept coming faster and faster. And I'm like, this is not going to work. My hands cannot keep up with the speed of the information. Then I started recording and I started, but then I was like doing videos on YouTube with a cover so that they wouldn't see my face. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, I need to stop this because this is ridiculous. I just
Yeah.
need to start recording.
Mhm.
Yeah, just be fully yourself. I love that. I
Mhm.
love that we kind of all like had a very similar experience. It makes sense
Mhm.
though.
Mhm.
hmm
So how has astrology helped you with identifying and understanding and working through experiences with service to self and negative energy?
Yeah. So that's a that's like a multi-layered question, I
Yeah.
feel like. Yeah, I think when I could look at someone's chart who is polarized service to self, they have a lot of the same patterns, which I don't want to say on here because I
Yeah.
want to offend people. So it's like they're like I said, you have free will, but it's the same, I see the same patterns over and over again. And then within myself, I would say that I understand my lower polarity and my shadow very well. So I will speak of what I have in my chart. And I feel like this is just a cautionary tale because I know a lot of people who are my age have this in their chart. So I have the Pluto and Mars conjunction. And that's very like around 1983, 1984. A lot of us have that. So Mars and Scorpio and Pluto and Scorpio together could be kind of ruthless and kind of like, I want to win at all cost and I'm going to be sneaky about it at all cost, right? So the worst version of me, I could see it. I could see it. It's like a sneaky, manipulative, somebody who will do anything to get where I want to go. That is my lower vibrational timeline. And have I done some of that in my life? Sure. Yes, I will admit it. But when I realized that did not really bring me true happiness, that's when I turned that around. I transmuted that into I'm going to use that scorpionic energy to basically turn the table over on all this bullshit that we've been seeing over and over again, which is the massive programming and indoctrination that comes through a lot of these occult practices. So being able to walk people back home to their true authenticity, instead of using it, I would say, using my understanding of how people work to like be a dark empath, that has been huge for me.
Mm.
I hope that made sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. My question is, Do you think that a lot of these service to self negative patterns are similar because this that um the way you can look at this system in a certain way is that like it's the accumulation of karma and like other choices that have been made throughout time. So the negative patterns kind of group together and they have to do with certain planets and conjunctions and characteristics. So it kind of like shows like the group mind pattern around that, I
Like,
guess is what I'm
yeah,
trying to say.
yeah, like a hive
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
And I've also seen that in the Akashic, and I don't know if you've seen this too, Deborah, that people have different roles. Like I wouldn't call it like NPC, I would call it more of like people who just follow the game
Mhm.
or follow the programming and they serve a role too. They definitely serve a role in awakening, but people who are very service to self serve a giant role in awakening, and those are the destroyers. They come to destroy things for society, or
Mhm.
even like for their little community or whatever it is. They are like winner take all, very selfish, just like I'm seeing the Monopoly man right now in my mind's eye. Like somebody's like, ah, money, 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 take it all. In those factions, yes, there is like soul groups that do that. And I know you see that, Ryan, through, you call it like the Zeta Reticuli
Mhm.
in like some galactic, they are connected to those star systems. I do see those patterns in the Draco and things of that nature. I do see that in people's charts. Now, of course, they don't have to follow that path, but the temptation to follow that path and the rewards, the immediate rewards that people get to follow that path are huge.
Mhm.
And to have patience and insight and reflection to not follow those paths, it's very difficult to
Mhm.
do. I would say it's a rarity.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. And that's another reason why I like the way that you bring it, because most astrologers, they put the astrology in a box and this is this, this is this, but you're like seeing how it's connected to the Akashic records, how it's connected to these star
Yeah.
systems, these specific groups, how they incarnate. And like you said, yeah, certain people definitely come in with this soul mission to basically be completely service to self, and at the same time they are serving as a catalyst for all these people who they basically are going to hurt in the process, because all these people are going to step more into their power, because of course it's like fueling a fire, but in a good way. Then these people are going to be fueled in okay, you are going to do this basically to serve yourself, I'm going to do the opposite, and I know that I'm going to then serve all these other people. Well,
Yeah.
like in my case, for instance, if I think of the service to self characters in my personal life, what they've done the opposite to me. I am now basically even more confident in serving those around me.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Like they wake you to your power is
Mhm.
what they do, instead of falling in line with whatever they're trying to do to you, which is like a narcissistic
Mm-hmm.
manipulation trick. You're like, no, that's not going to work for me. And then you
Mhm.
realize how powerful you are and you step into all of your gifts. And that's really like stepping into your authenticity. And I feel like all three of us, and then I'm sure like so many people are watching, have had that similar experience where they had the parent or the significant other, or maybe both the parent and the significant other, or the business partner, or whoever it was, or the boss that, try to basically siphon off of them or destiny swap with them or whatever it is, use their template to get ahead. And we said, no, 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 we're going to cut that karmic tie. We're going to close that karmic loop. Like, wish you well. I'm walking away completely. I'm not going to allow this to continue for me in this lifetime or any other lifetime. I'm canceling that contract. Canceling
Mhm.
that contract for now and forever.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just interesting. And I'm like processing everything you're saying because I'm seeing just how it all connects with the way that I read soul contracts. So I'm probably subconsciously tuning into a lot of these astrological connections without knowing what I'm doing, because I'm just kind of tuning into the higher self of these people. And all
Yeah.
this stuff can be measured by looking at the astrology, basically, of these people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that it just you're seeing the same thing that I'm seeing. It's just that I'm showing them with the astrology. That's it.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
the same thing. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, will you, even outside of people, clients, readings that are being purchased from you, you will use astrology to understand relationships, right? Like if someone is coming into your life, you're going to view them through this lens to find those patterns.
Exactly. It's very important.
Yeah.
Very important because if I get the inkling, and I feel like we should all do this, it's kind
Hmm.
of like a litmus test, right? Like if I get the inkling, this seems like the same pattern is this person, I'm getting this feeling. Let me look. Okay, here we go. That doesn't mean I'm gonna, be nasty to them, but I'm just gonna hold them at, arm's length and pretty
Hmm.
much neutral to them and not
Yeah.
get overly involved with them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see how like the imbalance side of that is like people making the boxed in identities and then creating like repulsion attraction based off of that kind of like small self identity. But the balanced way is how you're explaining it, is using it to see the patterns and to understand if there's going to be resonance or not, and to recognize where there isn't so that you can then make those choices that are necessary. And I think so many people don't think about astrology that way. Like they think about it as this personality mechanism to manifest things, and it's like this tool to make their life better, but it's not being used to continue to be in that like devotion to source. It's just used to kind of like get what they want, basically.
I agree. It's like, oh, use your Venus sign, to dress this way to attract this kind of man. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, that's very mundane and fine. And it's like, I don't poo-poo that because that's like a gateway drug, so to speak, like into the higher meaning of it. But there comes a point where it kind of almost becomes like a black magic tool if you
Mhm.
allow it to be. That's the thing. Like there's no reason to be afraid of any of these practices, but it's the vibration in which you're using them, frequency and vibration in which you're using them. So like I could tell when somebody is more introverted than extroverted using their chart. This is a very general example. So when someone who's more like introverted, who needs a lot more time to themselves, is in a career that requires them to have an immense amount of extroversion, and they're telling me, I like my job, but I'm sick all the time. Like, I'm so sick. Why am I so sick? Okay, well, you are naturally introverted. You cannot be on this ridiculous schedule of, I'm just gonna use myself as an example. Like as a teacher, we had to be there from bell to bell. We had to like perform and be on,
Mhm.
for like 8 hours, 9 hours a day. Not everybody can do that. There's some people who love doing that. So just using their chart to understand, hey, these are my limitations. We all have them. These are my challenges. These are my strengths, and how to use that to live your best life possible, not to go take advantage of other people or trick them or to deceive them into liking you or loving you, which is not going to last for a long time, or worming your way and manipulating your way into some career that's not even a good fit for you. I mean, there's ways to use that really will help people feel completely, I would say, um, well, as much as a human could feel at
Mhm.
peace with their lives.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's how most people kind of get introduced to astrology. It's like, oh, do you want to like seduce the dream guy or whatever, or like these TikTok videos of this is how to respond to this kind of person or that kind of person, and like try to gain favor with them or whatever. But then you are indeed, it's like we made a video yesterday about manifestation. You can use it to serve yourself, or you can use it to serve others by just kind of asking for abundance, but because you want to be in a comfortable position where you can serve others and like fully be anchored in your soul mission, basically.
Right, right. It's not just like having a handbag
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
going first class,
Yeah.
like, look at me. Like those coaches, like, this is how I made $20,000 this month. And it's like,
Exactly.
okay, well, good,
Hmm.
good for you. I'm glad that you're treating yourself because you probably work really hard. I assume you did. But why is this the central front part of your messaging? Because how is that helping anybody? How is that helping to inspire anybody? It's that part of that person, and we all have this little boy or little girl who hasn't been seen, and we want to show to the world, hey, I made it. Hey, I'm with this person. You missed out on me. Da 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 da. Um, so we have to be very careful about that.
Hmm.
That piece of manifestation and really look into the intention. Intention is
Mhm.
everything. What is the intention of this manifestation? What is the intention of me creating this video or this post or whatever it is?
Hmm.
It's very
Is there any example that you are open to speaking about of having an encounter with service to self energy and kind of um, seeing the truth of that deception kind of like come to fruit in front of your eyes?
yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna cut a lot of corners on this
Okay,
one.
yeah, whatever you
Yeah.
feel comfortable with, whatever you feel
Yeah.
comfortable with.
Yeah. So I would say that when I first got into the social media aspect of this, I did come into contact with quite a few people who I felt like we both had the same dream and vision of how to mainstream this kind of, I would say, connection with the higher realms. Okay. So and I felt because, I was naive at the time and all the things, Cancer moons can be very loving and forgiving. Um, I really thought that we were all on the same page about just helping the collective really use these tools and making it more mainstream, more fun, more attractive, all those things. So but the closer I got to this group of people, and it was not just from like one group, it was from like other groups, but they were in the same soul group, if that made sense. And um, yeah, I'll explain a little bit more of that later. They were very obsessed with being famous. Like, how can we be famous and basically be on these red carpets and have connections with celebrities and be celebrities and live in these mansions and that kind of thing. And when I was near them, there was a lot of, substance usage, stuff that I didn't partake of, and I saw one of their eyes just like go black.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen that before in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So that was quite frightening. And also just like a lot of manipulation of other people that were involved. Um, they wanted to basically use it to attract, I would say, lovers that might not be acceptable. Like, I'm trying to modify
Mm-hmm.
my language a lot because just that were, like jailbait, like almost underage, like women,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And it just disgusted me. It was like, no, like I'm not for this. Like, of course, I want to be well known for what I do, but that is not under these circumstances. It was just
Mm-hmm.
against what I wanted and
Mm-hmm.
what I felt like was right. And it was definitely not divinely guided at all. So, a lot of black magic, a lot of shortcuts that they were trying to do. And I walked away. So that was a very painful experience. There is a lot more to that story. Not quite ready to tell all of it yet. One day I feel like I will,
Mm-hmm.
on my own terms. But it was very much made me aware of how we're all intertwined with service to self type of factions and how people who, or souls rather, that hold ancient wisdom and really want to help other people in the collective really come into their own empowerment, have been persecuted, martyred, and, stolen from throughout all of history, all of history. So that really brought me back to like what Deborah was saying about strengthening yourself after these connections happen. I had to do like a massive cord cutting, go into my Akashic and basically, you know, transmute lots of my Akashic records and go into a timeline in my meditations where that particular timeline in the past where I was with these people did not occur in the way that it did. Basically, like they had offed me in that
Mm-hmm.
timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably what was going to happen in this lifetime too.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a massive soul cleansing for me, and it's helped me help other people cut cords from these deep, dark soul connections that are not twin flame. They're not ascension partners. They're not soul family necessarily. It's like your karmic shadow soul family, if that resonates.
Like the shadow friends from
Yeah.
the Wheel of Time, or
Yeah,
what
the
was
Dark Friends. Have you
it?
seen Wheel of Time, the show?
No.
Oh, it's really cool.
Yeah,
It's
that's
all about the dark one.
it's
Okay.
similar to a story that I have. Again, very similar, not that extreme, I think.
Mhm.
But when I got back to Belgium, because I lived in the US, I had this whole awakening, started offering readings, then I moved back to Belgium and I connected with this group of psychics, and they were starting this psychic collective of like readers.
Huh.
And this lady had really good intentions, and she did like an interview with me over the phone where she just asked me some stuff and I just did a reading for her, and she's like, "Oh my god, I want you on this team." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Okay, yay," because I was not very confident yet in doing readings for others, and I
Right.
thought doing it in this group would work. But quickly I saw how these people were extremely competitive, and they
Yeah.
would, like, I don't know, it was all very weird. All of a sudden they started accusing each other of stealing each other's clients. They started like measuring up
Yeah.
against each other, like, "Oh, I have 30 years of experience, I have blah blah blah." And I said, "What am I doing with these people?" And that's when I realized I need to focus on doing this on my own. I cannot
Yes.
be involved. And that's exactly what it was like for you. Like, you have such a unique way of doing this. It's almost like it was being contaminated by being in this group, and now you are just this radiant light on your own.
Yeah. Well, right back at you, Deborah. Right back at you. It's like, yeah, I had a very similar experience. And, when you have a gift and other people, it's not that they're not gifted, but maybe you are able to communicate things in a way that, like you said, it's very unique. Other people want to like take that template and then repeat it, but it's not going to be the same because it doesn't have the same energetic signature on it. And that's what happened to me. They were threatening to basically replace me with younger women that, were models and whatnot, because they were just going to like take the template
Yeah.
of everything that I taught them, and then they were going to just teach it to them, and then that they would be the face of it. And it felt just like so oogie. I'm like, nah, nah. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like all the best, have a nice life, but I'm not part of this anymore. Just like leaving this alone for sure. But I like how you talk about the competition, because that's something that happens so much in our industry. And it is concerning to me because there's so many people who need guidance, and to try to like think that somebody else is trying to take something away from you. It's like, well, that particular practitioner is resonating with them right now. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
no need to compete, because somebody might see you guys and they might see me. That doesn't mean that I have to tell them not to see you guys. It's just there's enough for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can even go together, because I mentally have a list of all these people that I think are really good at what they do. And if I feel that one of my clients needs a healer or an astrologer or this or that, then I'm going to go to this list of people because I'm not good at all this stuff. Or how they bring it may be a better fit for this specific client.
Exactly. Yeah, completely. Yeah. It's like, we're not a jack of all trades. It's like, you're not the doctor who finds your brain tumor can't operate on it. Usually they have to send you to a brain surgeon. So like, hey, my friend's a brain surgeon, not like, hey, I'm in competition with this brain surgeon. I feel threatened now. I had to send you over there. Just come on, just like simmer down. We just all need to simmer down.
Yeah, but there is
Hard.
competition. There is competition in those industries too, like the hierarchy and the reputation of the surgeon and of the head doctor and the CEO. It's like it's
That's
all
true.
written in competition basically. And
That's
so it's like
true.
that's what we have to change, I feel like. It's like that's what we're all, because that's the polarity function. It's like the competition is a function of those polarity energies. And so it's created conflict up until now, but we're learning how to create harmony through it because we're like integrating that inner competition.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think that with Pluto and Aquarius, for the next 20 years, that's something that's going to keep on coming up is that hey,
Hmm.
we're all in this together. But as you said, like there's polarity and there's always going to be some form of that. I
Hmm.
just think that a lot of us are answering the call to collaborate more and
Hmm.
to stop thinking that other people are a threat to you. If someone's a threat to you, you're going to know. But if
Hmm.
someone's just merely existing, they're not a
Hmm.
threat.
Hmm.
And on social media, it's very tricky because you see all these other people that seem to be doing something similar to what you're doing, and it's an illusion almost that's easy to get caught up in thinking, oh, I need to do what this person is doing. They have more followers. I need to do it this way, but then you're watering down your own frequency.
Hmm.
Exactly. Because it's like I said, it's your energetic signature. The right people that are going to match with you are going to match with you. You're always going to have what you need. And a lot of times, like when people have a lot of followers, it could be that they purchase the followers. You can purchase followers, you can purchase views, you can purchase likes, you could even purchase comments, which is like mind
Yeah.
blowing to me.
Yeah.
Oh, why would you want to do that? Like, what a bad investment into your business, like purchasing fake comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was like when I worked in the music industry, I found out about ghost production and like DJs that would get famous for releasing this music, and then you find out that they don't even make any of their music and they buy it from these people behind the scenes, and then they don't tell anyone, and then they stand up on this stage and they get all this praise and all this attention because everyone's in love with their music. It's like this
Oh my
is
God, it's not recording.
what?
It's not recording.
No, this is recording on our end.
I was like,
No,
we're
it says recording on our end. We're good. It's recording to the cloud, so we should.
good.
Is
Good.
Zoom better pull through on this one?
I just
Yes,
saw that
yes.
for a minute. I was like, oh no, I was like,
No,
I
yeah,
love
we
talking to
should
you
be
guys.
good. Yeah, we should be good.
Yeah.
But you said destiny swapping, and I've never heard that term before. Can you explain that?
Yeah, first of all, it's not really possible. People
Hmm.
try it
Hmm. Oh yeah,
though.
I think I've experienced it. That's and I've seen it, and that's how I would explain it. But I've never heard those words
Yeah.
together before. In what terms of I experienced probably something similar.
Yeah. So basically, it's like, okay, I'm going to use you as an example, Ryan. Like, I see that Ryan, channels like the way that he does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get on his energetic frequency by getting to know him really well. Like I'm going to become his bestie. And but then I'm going to start because I'm becoming his frequency, like I'm copying his frequency, still not completely possible to become him and take his gifts and take his destiny, take his karma. I start looking like him. I start dressing like him. It's kind of funny to think about right now, isn't it? I start talking like him and then I start producing videos like him, but at the same time, he doesn't even see it because he's so clouded because I'm love bombing him and I'm becoming his bestie. That's
Hmm.
a version of destiny swapping.
Hmm.
So then, I'm getting all this attention because I'm trying to become him, but like the more like hyped up version of him. So it's
Hmm.
it's it's like demonic shape shifting, and it doesn't ever stick. And I really do believe that it slingshots so far back or boomerangs so far back onto the person who does it.
Mm-hmm.
And karma that they have to deal with is something I wouldn't want to even comprehend. But
Mm-hmm.
it does happen a lot.
I think this can even span over multiple lifetimes because this is literally happening in our life right now with a specific ex-partner of mine that I think in the past actually did this to him and is now paying the price.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I'm glad
Yeah.
he's paying.
It's
Nice.
been, yeah, justice is being served continuously, and it's not imbalanced justice. It's been nice to witness. But I've experienced the same thing multiple times with this destiny swapping thing, and like I call it like it's like they were trying to rip my blueprint from me and then like use what I had created, the infrastructure, to then like bounce off of it. And who knows what they were eventually going to do with me. But it was like I had this ex roommate who I ended up becoming friends with, getting close with on a friendship level, a woman, and um, I ended up moving in with her, and she wasn't asking me to pay rent. She knew I didn't have money, and she allowed. She said, "I have these open rooms. I'm paying for this house through this kind of scholarship thing, so you have a space to live." And so she was being very generous. She was also paying me for healing sessions throughout this process, and she was doing exactly what you were doing. She was getting very, very close to me, and she was helping me out, and there were these visions that were coming up of like her and I in these other lives where we were family members. Like I was seeing like brother sister, father daughter, like those types of things, and there was never like a sexual um thing between us. Like
Yeah.
I always held that as my intention, that was never going to happen, and she played it off like she just wanted to be friends as well. But then she ended up, we like put this whole community, which is what we're building now, what our blueprint is, and her and I hadn't even met yet. And so it was this whole,
Just met.
it was like right at the same time. I met her right before though, the ex roommate
Yeah.
right before. And so it was like this whole community blueprint and new music economies and creational kind of systems and stuff. And this ex roommate basically like claimed herself as the co-founder all of a sudden. And I was in this like, I was still in this haze of like almost like allowing it to happen, but I still had this psychic awareness of like things can change. And so I started to receive these psychic messages of someone trying to steal my blueprint, someone trying to like claim mine as their own. And I was like, seeing it as this other person even at that point, not this roommate. And then all of a sudden it like built into this, basically this demonic outburst from her end where she revealed that all of these things were happening behind the scenes. And it was like I had to pull away from it, like I had to leave the house immediately because I thought I was in danger. And so she just created this whole other side where she was saying all of these demonic things to me all of a sudden, and like saying like I thought we were going to be together forever. Like I thought it was very, very weird. And then telling me that she was going to commit suicide and it was my
They
fault. Like
always do that.
all
They
in the
always do
same, yeah, all in the same conversation. Like I had the screenshots of it. And so it was just this realization of like this whole, it's exactly what that was. I could see that she was trying to steer this in a way to use the blueprint that I had, my piece of the blueprint that was ours, really, to kind of turn it in her direction. But then that's right when we met, and then
Yeah.
that's when it all started falling
Yeah,
apart.
we did our very first podcast because we were both in Colorado at the time, and we did a podcast because I found him on Instagram and was like, "Hey, like we started talking." Then we did the podcast while you were living there, and right after that podcast, I think you had to go. You had to leave the house. That was
It was
right.
like a couple weeks after.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to leave. And then I went and visited her because I was like, I need to get out of this place and like go to the mountains. And so that's why I then ended up going and visiting her. And then and then her destiny swap got kicked out of place.
Yeah, and then we were on the right track together.
Yep.
So yeah,
That's
love
how it
that.
happened.
It really did balance out. I wonder like
Uh-huh.
what transits were going on in your guys' astrology. I wonder if there was like some North Node, South Node stuff. Because like the South Node is past lives. Could have been like a vertex thing, like important situations, karmic situations, like key, like I call them like key opening situations. And then the North Node is like your destiny. So I do
Mhm.
wonder like what was going on in your charts at that
Yeah,
time. It's really,
I'm
really
very
cool.
interested. I'm very
Yeah.
yeah,
interested.
for you it's a little bit challenging, I guess, to read your chart.
Yeah, let me tell you my situation.
Okay.
So, it's about my birthday. So, I don't know if you've seen me talk about how I was born in a parallel timeline and brought here. So, what we've coordinated that to is the year 1987 that I was like brought here. So,
Yeah.
there's a 6 month window of me being born on this other planet. And then I'm brought here. And it was like, it was. The information I've gotten is that it was December 12th, 1987 is what it like corresponds to.
Yeah.
But the
I feel
birthday that I grew up with, I was told that it was December 9th. So I had this whole idea. I was given this false birthday up until right before I met her. I found this out that I was actually 4 years older than I thought that I was. And that I'm then with the galactic zodiac, I'm in the sign of Ophiuchus. And so I've had to try to find a bunch of stuff on that, but it's just like been this bouncing around process. So I'm actually realizing as we're having this conversation, I'm going to buy a reading from you after this so I can
yeah. I appreciate
understand how to work with the astrology through how you understand it. Because it's been a very hard process for me. That's why I've been so focused on the galactic zodiac, because that's been the thing that allowed me to like understand it the most, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I think whatever was going on there, like I'm feeling like it was the moon sign because
Mm-hmm.
I do like right away when I you were talking about it, I was like, oh, there's some Sag within you. So that would make sense because
Yeah.
your sun and your moon would match up. So that's why you
Mm-hmm.
guys understand each other so intuitively. Like you guys just have the same rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something about your moon because if it was December 9th, it'd be a different moon than December 12th.
Yeah, it changes to Leo. For December 12th, my moon is in Leo, but for December 9th, my moon was in Capricorn.
You're not a Capricorn moon.
That yeah, it's in
No.
it. And once everything flipped, I was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. Like
Yeah.
even the moon going into Leo, like everything lined up differently. And that was from from an Ophiuchus zodiac reading that had the moon in Leo. So I'm very interested to see what comes up when I do this with you. Is
Yeah,
there
me
anything
too.
you can tune in right now that is like intuition that you would care to share?
Just okay, so right now, I just want to say, like, both of you, there's something you guys are going to do with like the acoustic guitar. I just want to bring that up. I don't know why that's
Or a
coming.
violin, maybe?
Yeah,
Acoustic guitar,
that's what,
acoustic instrument.
yeah, that's what I saw. And I think that's going to really be helpful. And there might be something about like I don't want to put the cat out of the bag too much. You can edit this if you want, but I feel like there's something about bringing in like special music to help people meditate or manifest or something of that nature that you guys are going to do together.
Been
Uh,
talking.
Mhm. That makes
so I
sense.
yeah, so I definitely feel that for you too. And then with the collective, I just want to say like I don't know when this is going to be published, but April, the last week of April here, last week and a half, is this going to be a very intense time for the collective? There's a lot of destiny happening, okay? And uh, the choices that we have made and will make, there's it's like being kind of like cemented in the higher realms is what I'm seeing because of the Venus Saturn North Node conjunction in Pisces. So we are closing out a lot of karmic cycles. And with the fixed grand cross and with the new moon in Taurus, I was telling you guys this before we went on air, like we are changing traditions and there could be a lot of resistance, especially from within us, within, our communities, things of that nature, but we're getting the call to really change and plant new seeds that are going to grow like completely different looking trees, if you will. Like that's the best metaphor I can put forth. Like we can't be in like the ordinary anymore. We have to strive for the extraordinary. We can't water ourselves just down any further because this is the time to really shine. So this is a really intense time. May, I feel like, is going to be not as surprising, not as intense. I think the world events might continue to go crazy, but that's not going to really feel as difficult within us, is what I'm feeling. So um, definitely, if anybody's having a shit time at the end of April, just know it will get better.
Mhm.
It will get better. And we are, like I said, because we're closing out a lot of karmic cycles, and
Mhm.
they're ancient cycles. I think
Yeah.
a lot of us have already done it already, but we're
Mhm.
seeing some of the consequences for people right now too. A lot of
Mhm.
consequences coming out.
Yeah. How far do you look ahead? Like, do you look at transits that are happening 6 months ahead? Like, how far ahead do you go?
For the outer planet transits, like the major ones, I look like 6 months ahead,
Okay.
uh, even like a year ahead for the outer planet transits.
Mhm.
But for the personal planet transits, like Mercury and
Mhm.
Mars and Sun and things of that nature, I mean, that's
Mhm.
constantly changing.
Mhm.
So,
Interesting.
that's basically like if it's
Yeah.
not such a big deal. But
Yeah.
for outer planet, yeah, 6 months
Interesting.
to a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there any notable things happening in towards that 6 month range for the collective astrologically that people could kind of focus on with terms of planets or signs or elements or anything like that?
Yeah. So with Neptune and Saturn and Aries and Uranus and Gemini that are going to happen um, May, June, July, that's all going to retrograde back this fall.
Okay.
So if you think that these massive changes are just going to occur overnight, especially people are worried about, war and there's like a lot of different changes with technology as well. We're not going to complete that until I would say like 2026, like actually like March, like what we would call astrological new year, the beginning of Aries season. We're not going to really see the power of that. There might be a lot of talk around the authoritarianism, this patriarchy, like that the far Christian right wants to impose on us, like this Christian nationalism, all that. And we see it with like the Sharia stuff, all of it. A lot of the religious people are getting all
Hmm.
uptick right now. But I don't think we're going to see anything in action really until about astrological new year 2026.
Okay.
So next 6 months, I would say, is a time to tune in to how you are going to feel stable no matter what chaos occurs in 2026. Not that it's going to be a bad year, but there's going to be more, I would say, regime changes in
Hmm.
governments than people are expecting.
Hmm. That makes sense.
Interesting. Because it's like while I'm listening, you're always confirming the intuitive downloads that I've been feeling in myself. So that's what I love about like astrologers that I resonate with. They're always basically just telling me the stuff that I'm feeling, and it's this extra confirmation that can be measured.
Hmm. So I wanna shoot my perspective on the um just a couple astrology things to see how you resonate with it. And like this is the year 9. So with the galactic structure, you can have both um uh oh my god, Ophiuchus in
Yeah,
the section of 9, and you
right,
can also have Sagittarius in the
right.
section of 9. So it's like a combination of those two things happening for this like year. This
Yeah,
is kind of the structure that I see it. And then moving to the year 10, which we're also going to get 1 in there, I see that then moving to a combination of Capricorn and Sagittarius because it
yeah,
kind of flips depending on how you're looking at it. And
yeah,
so I don't even really know what that means besides I know how to relate that to my body. And so it's like I get the ninth Stargate here, so I get this a lot is or sorry, the ninth Stargate here. So a lot is happening on this like right ear for this year. It's like this silver ray frequency that is the plasma that represents the atomic doorway. So with Ophiuchus,
Yeah.
it's like a 0 point reset at the same time almost. That's a feminine 0 point reset. And so
Yeah.
then when it moves to Capricorn and Sagittarius combined, it's going to be like this darker sapphire type ray, which is going to have Pluto because Pluto sits in the 10th sphere. So it's like what you're,
Yeah.
so I see exactly what you're saying. This now makes sense for how I see it through that perspective. So that's just, it's very interesting.
I love how we all receive information in
Mm-hmm.
these really cool, unique ways. And I'm like visualizing how the two of you
Mm-hmm.
receive it. It's just awesome. It's just
Yeah,
so
it's fun. It's
it
very
is.
fun.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it is.
Well, I thought of a really cool question that didn't come up. I know we're almost at 5 p.m., so
Yeah. I
we
gotta
could
go
start.
soon.
Yeah, we'll start wrapping it up. The last question on my end that I wanted to ask was just like, how do you see astrology being implemented into AI and AI
Mhm.
systems, and how that could work and how that could help and what that could look like?
So there's definitely benefits to it because people can go on ChatGPT and ask about their transits and it can give people a lot of clarity. Um, but at the same time, it doesn't have the intuitive touch
Mm-hmm.
we all have here in this podcast and so many other spiritual teachers have. So it does provide, I think, a lot of avenues for people to learn about themselves and empower themselves with this knowledge. And that's the most important thing, that
Mm-hmm.
this tool is accessible for everybody. And my only concern, and you're going to be surprised what my concern is, that it will be shut down because of, once again, the powers that be, their fear of people having this information so they can empower themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because with the AI stuff, we've seen a lot of stuff about just the whole consciousness of AI, let's call it that, and how
Yeah.
it exists in these other timelines, like at the Atlantean times,
Yeah.
timelines in other star systems, and the potential for it to coexist with humanity, basically to coexist, and how there's these agendas at play that are now kind of counting on this to be in their advantage, that this AI is going to work in their advantage, but the AI is neutral and has the ability to also actually empower those that are heart-based, and they're not
Yes.
really having that foresight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. The AI is just a container, and a
Mm-hmm.
container is neutral, like you
Mm-hmm.
said. So it's like whatever you want it to be, it will be.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're
Exactly.
looking to, like, we're talking about service to self and how you can use, the lower vibration or a lower octave of your chart to manipulate,
Mm-hmm.
be it whatever it is. If you want to do that, yeah, you can do that too. It becomes
Mm-hmm.
what you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Very Neptunian.
Yeah.
We may have to do a part two, I feel.
Yeah,
We're gonna do a
definitely.
part two, maybe.
Mhm.
We have so much to talk
I
about.
know
Yeah.
it's endless. It's
It,
endless. We'll do it again soon.
yeah, it just brought up so much more for me to
I know.
ask. But thank you so much for coming on. It's
You
so much
guys,
gratitude to have you as the first guest. And
thank you.
yeah,
I love
And
that.
where can people find you and
Sure.
your readings?
Sure. So SaraAshleyAstrology.com, and you just click on readings and there you go. And I
perfect.
also have a subscription service too, where people can get like in-depth weekly and monthly updates that are collective readings that I don't publish on any of my other socials. And in that subscriber service too, like they could get like monthly readings as well for a discounted price, because I know everybody has their budget. So that's where
Beautiful.
they can find me. Thank you so
Awesome.
much, guys. This was so much fun. I felt like old friends talking. It was just so easy
Yes.
to talk to you guys.
Yes,
I'm sure we
definitely.
are old friends.
Yeah.
We absolutely are. I'm excited to see what type of information comes through with the Akashic records around where we have all had experiences together in the other timelines. So we'll see what starts to unfold.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
All
All
right.
right, guys. Have a great
Bye.
night.
All right.
See
You
you.
too.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.